Margery Kraus is President and CEO of APCO Worldwide, a public affairs consulting firm she founded in 1984. Today, her firm employs nearly 600 people and handles government relations, strategic communications, and international business projects for clients all over the world. Margery was honored as the Washington PR Woman of the Year in 2006, and her company now sponsors the event. Let's hear her thoughts about women in public relations. Margery, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, it's my great pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Margery, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you first get started in public relations?
Well, I started in a very unusual way because when I was in high school, my father started a football team, and I used to do all the advance work for the football team. But that was a different era. So, and more recently, what happened was I was one of the people who started the Close-Up Foundation, which is a not-for-profit. And when you start a not-for-profit, there's a lot to do between the fundraising and the positioning and the program development, but getting the organization known as part of that. So a lot of what I learned started there because you had to be a jack of all trades. And then when I had the opportunity to start APCO, it didn't start really as a PR firm. It started more as a consulting firm. And it just made sense in terms of the way in which we did things to bring public relations into the mix. So I kind of walked in the back door backwards, if you want to call it that, to come to a profession.
What do you like most about your work today?
You know, I think when I get up in the morning, when I'm not too tired anyway, and get to think about it, I'm really excited about what I do because, first of all, it's diverse. And no 2 days are ever the same, and you're asked to, you get to work on things that really make a difference to your clients, and its success is readily apparent a lot of times. I think the second reason I love what I do is the people. When you start a firm, one of the great blessings you have is you get to pick the people you work with. And so over time, they not only become your colleagues, but they become your, in some ways, mentors or people you learn from. And then you also get to share lots of things with them. And some of those people even become your friends. So I think I'm very fortunate to do that. And probably the third thing, which is you know, maybe a little different, is that over the course of the years, 2 of my 3 children have come into the business and are working with me. Of course, there's 600 people, so it's, you know, it's not like they're out of place in the firm or something. But it is a very special feeling as a mother to have that.
Do you feel women in PR face any particular challenges or offer any particular strengths to the profession?
You know, I wouldn't limit this to public relations. I think that women in business, women in public relations, women in general, all face the same challenges and opportunities. And I like to think of it as an advantage rather than a disadvantage. I've never looked at being a woman as a bad thing. And many times, especially, you know, I'm a little bit older maybe than a lot of people in the profession at this point, and in growing up and being professional, I think that there have been a lot of ups and downs, but I've always tried to see the glass being, you know, half full. And so one thing I know is that if you're in a room and there are a lot of men in there, they remember you. I think that, you know, I've always felt that I wanted to be well prepared and probably over prepared in some situations, which I think is a good thing. And I think part of that is being a woman. I think the hardest things are probably about balancing work and the rest of your life, because you still are a mother or you know, wife, and you still have a lot of other responsibilities and things to do. And finally, I'd say that women bring something extra to the profession, and I think that's perspective, and women are much better at multitasking somehow, of seeing kind of a lot of different things happening at one time. And in this profession where there's so many unknowns, where you're constantly changing, being flexible, adaptable, and being able to multitask is really a great asset. And I think if I had one piece of advice for women, I'd say, the difference between women and men in a lot of cases, not just in this business, is that, for a lot of times you give a man an opportunity to say, okay, I'll do it. And the women will say, well, I've never done that before. And I think it's not to be less honest, but it's to be more proactively sure of yourself and advance yourself in ways maybe that are a little outside your comfort zone. So I think, but I think in general, women not only bring a lot to the profession, but I haven't seen being a woman as a big disadvantage.
Margery, what qualities or skills do you think women in public relations need to be successful?
Well, I think that women in PR need to be creative. I think we need to understand ourselves well enough to know how we play on the particular things we bring to the table, and that is very important. But I think, something I've said a lot when I've encouraged other women is that, you have to do a good job at whatever you're doing at the moment. And so this ability to come in and take on an assignment and grow it and then be a good listener and a counselor and then go on to something bigger is a really good way to build your career. And I have never been very fond of these kind of long-term, okay, for these 5 years I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go do that, because opportunities don't come in 5-year blocks, and they never come at convenient times. So you really have to just look at things and then take advantage of the situations you have. And I think that that's especially important in this field, in this industry.
Margery, you are an inspiration to others. Who inspired you in your career, and how did this influence you?
I think that you get inspired by lots of different people over the course of a career. And I think for me, a lot of the inspiration came, I don't want to say it's not continual, but early in my life. There are things that happen that kind of shape your life. I'm first generation American. That certainly has shaped the way I see opportunities. And one of the people that live with me, as my mother was, she was married and came, but her family came from Cuba, Poland by way of Cuba, and so we constantly had other people living with us as people left Cuba. But my uncle, who was 7 years my senior and much younger than my mother, was my hero in life. And when he was 21, he got cancer, and I was 14, and I was with him every day until he died. And I really learned a lot, not only about his dignity and death, but his even in his short life, the contributions he made. And I kind of always said that if I died tomorrow, I wanted to know that I had kind of lived to the fullest. And I think that was a really important thing. Professionally, I learned from the father of somebody I used to work for that nobody cares what you did yesterday, really. I mean, maybe they care when you're getting the business, but everybody wants to feel special. And I think that that has been very important, not to say, well, we did this for this client, it was really great, or we did this yesterday, but to really be able to focus on the here and now and what you're bringing to the table here and now, and not to rely on kind of past things. And there are a few other people along the way, but each one kind of brought one specific thing to the table that I tried to learn from and tried to absorb. And I think that a lot of my success is the cumulative impact of those individual stories. And if we had a half an hour, I'd tell you 10 more.
Margery, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Well, I hope it was helpful to other people. And it's always doesn't seem like much of a story when you're living it, but hopefully this will be useful to others.